Good afternoon. Okay, come on now. Good afternoon. All right. I am very clear, I'm Carmita Semaan, that I am standing between you and lunch. And I am discussing a topic that is not frequently discussed in education technology conferences, which is love. People talk about race and religion as third-rail topics, but I would argue that love probably qualifies given the topic at hand. But I want to start a bit differently, so I hope you're not comfortable in your seats. I want to ask everyone to stand up. If you're in the wrong room, we are still at the ASU GSV conference, but we're just doing things a little bit differently. So, when I say go, I want you to walk around the room and shake hands with as many people as possible in 10 seconds. Go. All right, stop. Stop what you're doing. Okay, wherever you are, when I say go, I want you to hug as many people as possible in the next 10 seconds. Go. All right, stop. Finally, in the next 10 seconds, I want you to give as many high fives as possible in the next 10 seconds. Go. High five. All right, stop. Please have a seat. Sit with someone that you hugged, or you high-fived, or whose hand you shook, or not. So it's really important to me, frequently we come to conversations, especially about systems for our young people, and we are mired in data. We are mired in terms like disruption, innovation, access, actions. And we operate as if all of those things are mutually exclusive with love and heart and care and concern. And if I ask many of you in this room who are traditional educators or for whom you've been in education quite some time, the reasons why you do the work that you do for our babies is rooted in love. It's rooted in care. It is rooted in a belief in the possibility of our young people. And the innovation, the data, those are all the how to get to the why for our young people. So I'll ask you to just bear with me for the next 10 minutes or so. Want to talk through some things about how I believe and make a case for love as the missing piece in much of what we call the education reform movement. Now, I want to start personally. So 1977, shortly after her 29th birthday, my mother gave birth to me. She and my father were extremely happy. I was healthy, I was cute, and all was right in the world. And less than 4 months later, tragedy struck. My mother, at 29, suffered a massive stroke that nearly ended her life. Doctors told my family to prepare for the worst. They said she would likely not make it 48 hours. But they also said, if there is anything that you believe will give her the will to live, do it. So my family got creative, because that's who we are. And they went and found as many photos of my mother's newborn child as they could. And they papered her hospital room with photos of me, so that even on a ventilator, even in and out of consciousness, anytime she opened her eyes, the thing that she would see would be her daughter. Now, my family says, I obviously was not there, that they noticed that her eyes began to open more frequently. That when she saw my photos, her eyes stayed open a bit longer. And over the course of days and weeks, she miraculously recovered. Now, she had phenomenal doctors, a wonderful support system, but until the day that my mother left this earth, she swore that the reason that she walked out of that hospital was the love she had for her daughter. And that love is why I stand here. I am committed to our young people because I am rooted in the fact that love has the power to make the impossible possible. That is the story of my life. I think it's the story of many of the communities that we serve, many of the children and families that we serve, and I believe that our movement, if rooted in that belief, coupled with the skills, the data, the great systems, we would see transformational change for our young people and sustainability that our communities see themselves in and not just being done to. So, this is not a TED Talk because you all are required to actually participate. So, when I say the word movement, first of all, how many of you have heard education reform referred to as a movement? Okay, majority of the hands. How many of you have heard it referred to as the civil rights movement of our time? Same hands. Okay, what does movement mean to you? Anything, call it out. Movement, what does the word mean? Change, action, disruption, transformation. Hi, Phyllis. Anything else? Expression. So I think many of us would say that we are living in a time of many different movements. And some of those movements are conflicting. I'm trying to advance. I'm pushing this really hard. Okay. So, in our larger political discourse, there are many movements afoot. Give me some thoughts, just immediate emotions that these photos bring forth for you. What words? Pain. Resistance, injustice, anger, fear. Many people say that the antithesis of love is hate. I believe it's fear. And I believe fear breeds anger and can lead to hate. And it's understandable. There are many social justice issues that need to be elevated. We need activists. We need revolutionaries who will call forth the change that needs to be made. But I argue that doing so from a place of fear or anger or hate does more to separate us and divide us than bring us together in a common or towards a common solution. Corey warned me I had to push this really hard. Okay. So for every one of those examples, there are also examples of us coming together in love, in care, around our sense of shared humanity. I believe most of us are in this room for that reason. You don't decide to work in education reform, education equity, without having some baseline care and belief in the young people that you're serving, and a belief in your ability to make that change happen. But what happens in education? The same thing that happens in politics. We are politically divided. We operate from places of fear. We operate from places of power. This is a cartoon that was taken directly from the Chicago Tribune. I left corporate America 12 years ago to join K-12 education because of cartoons like this. I could not live in the city of Chicago and see what was being portrayed as a broken, faulty system that was leaving our young people to fend for themselves and fly without wings and not be a part of that solution. That did not come from a place of duty or obligation. It came from a place of love. It came from a place of heart. I fortunately had the opportunity to hone lots of skills in organizational development, strategy, business analytics, but using those skills to change systems that could forever change the lives of our young people was about me matching my daily work to my life's work. And it's personal for me because I was this young girl. Access to a high quality education and a support network of people who knew the promise that was latent within me is why I stand before you today. And seeing systems that were failing young people, not young people who were failing, was something that I could not sleep with at night. But I will admit, when I made the leap from corporate America into K-12 education, I was both overjoyed and a little bit heartbroken. And I'll share why. So the overjoyed is what you see in this photo. Our young people, when's the last time anyone in this room has been in a third grade classroom? What do you feel in a third grade classroom? Exuberance, energy, joy. Like, I don't know what it is about third grade, but there is something powerful in young people at that time. The world is their oyster. They can be and want to be anything. And I was one of those children and had access to an amazing education. But seeing systems where even the best people were working against tides that were about adults and not young people, seeing systems where leadership too often was woefully underrepresented of the communities that serve them. Seeing systems that unfortunately operated and used narrative that was about the deficits that our young people brought with them and the lack that they had, and not the assets and their inherent genius and gifts. Those left me heartbroken. So I got a bright idea to do something about it. This is my mom, I mentioned before, Wanda. And I'm my mother's daughter. I could not operate in a place that I saw, yes, we look a lot alike, pretty obvious. I could not operate in a system that I felt was broken and not attempt to build systems or some approach to actually solve the problems that I saw that existed. So with that, I got a bright idea, and I shared my bright idea with lots of friends. Many of you are in the audience, for the Surge Institute. And Surge was built on the premise that we, one, absolutely needed to create a pipeline of more gifted, brilliant leaders of color with shared experience with our community. Not that there is not room for everyone who has the right motivations, skills, tools, networks, access to bring to bear for our young people. There is. But we should all pause when the folks who represent our communities and have shared experience with our young people and their families are not represented in the places where their fates are decided. It should give us all pause. Surge was one, to address that. Two, to actually create a case that was, we need not operate in these insular environments where only charters are talking to charters and districts are talking to districts and philanthropy is talking to philanthropy and public policy, who knows who they're talking to. We really, if we are going to bridge these divides, it's not just about seeing the genius and the gifts in young people, it's about seeing it in the adults that serve them and come with great belief and purpose, and creating space for them to have shared learning communities together. I was fortunate to have a group of folks who brought into this vision, who saw that we could actually empower African American and Latino leaders to solve their community's problems. We don't need to wait for Superman. We can put on a cape. But we need skills, we need tools, we need access, and we need to be empowered to bring the belief and the authenticity of our experience to every decision that we are making for our young people. I was fortunate to have a group across difference come together with me. We are different in many ways, different in beliefs, different in the types of systems we work in, different politically, but with a unifying belief in the power and genius of the young people that we serve and the communities that surround them. That vision came to light with the first cohort of Surge Fellows, 12 insurgents, as they call themselves, who took a risk and joined our first fellowship cohort that's rooted in executive skills training, leadership development, access to networks, executive coaching, but all through a lens of race, identity, equity, and love. And that movement has grown. It's grown from that first cohort to now our current cohort of 22 leaders across 20 organizations in the city of Chicago. Those leaders represent charter and district, philanthropy, public policy, organizations that are serving students in out-of-school time. They represent different philosophical beliefs, different political beliefs, but the unifying belief is in the power of our young people and the desire to access different skills in order to not just get a seat at the table, but also leverage those skills to stay there and have an impact and sustainable results. Because lest you think this just be about love, let me give you some data. We just wrapped up an early learning evaluation with mission measurement after only 2 years of work. And what we found is tremendous. There is indisputable proof of leadership acceleration through additional skills. 75% of that first cohort that you saw have been promoted or taken on larger leadership roles outside of their organizations. 100% of our fellows, 100%, say that they have gained additional substantial executive skills such as negotiations, change management, finance and operations. 100% of them are now doing more, taking on greater work within their organizations and have leveraged the work that they've done to do that through Surge. 87% of them specifically state that because of Surge, they are now intentionally working across organizations that used to not talk to each other. They are building bridges to actually ensure that we keep our young people first, and they're doing that because they've had an experience that's not just rooted in the academics, but it's rooted in love. You don't build community through just the data. You don't build community through just the academics. You build community through trust, respect, love. We cannot expect the adults who are serving our young people to have that with our young people if they don't have that among themselves. And that love has allowed us to create an environment that has broken down barriers. One example, one of our alums was a Chicago Public School employee working with system leaders, school leaders on data analysis. Another of his cohort mates was a principal in a charter school in Chicago. During a conversation with a CPS principal, this gentleman overheard that CPS principal speaking disparagingly about the charter school with whom she shared a building and operating in a place that was less than efficient because it was based on we've got to keep as much as we can and keep them from being successful. Now, he has admitted that before he knew that principal, he would have either been mute or gone along with that program. But because he had shared space with that person, he had learned side by side with that person and had a shared experience and knew her heart, knew her story, he used his privilege in that moment to actually advocate for a different course of action that left both of those schools better. That would not have happened had he not had a shared learning experience with that person. So this isn't just about the heart and the feel good, it's about that leading to doing our work differently and having greater impact for the young people that we serve. And we're growing. Surge is now in its third cohort in Chicago. We're expanding to Oakland this year with plans to be in 4 cities by 2020. The demand is through the roof. We recognize that cities across the nation are suffering many of the same things that we see, with communities seeing things being done to them, not with them, and not seeing themselves in leadership of the systems that are supposed to serve our young people. And we're meeting that demand. But that demand requires a level of intimacy. It requires us having really tough conversations, not just about skills and building those skills, but the latent things that we bring with us that make us less than impactful in our roles. That means a lot of unconscious bias that we all have. It means the subtle belief or disbelief we have about ourselves because of where we're from and what we bring with us in our stories. And what you will hear from a number of our alums and current fellows who are here is that many of them came in thinking about the promotion, thinking about the skills, and were knocked off their feet by the soul work. And that is the work that changes the game for our young people. This photo has particular impact for me. Many of you who know me know I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama. And when you grow up in the Deep South, a Confederate flag is not a relic to a war. It is a mindset. It is a belief about people. And when I saw this photo and saw the story behind it, it said something powerful to me about the power of love to change hardened hearts. Fear does not do that. Anger does not do that. Common human element and love is what actually can make the hardest of hearts melt and come to a place of common understanding and common unity. We all shake our heads and we nod in agreement. We understand this intellectually, but in our work every day, we operate from a place of us, them, we, ours. If you're in this room, it's because you believe something different. You're here because you have an unwavering belief in our young people. You're operating in systems to improve access and outcomes for young people, and you are using all of your gifts and genius and brilliance to bring something new to bear. I simply ask you that as you do that, think beyond the outcomes. Think beyond the data. Think beyond the innovation, the disruption. Notice I did not say think around it. Think beyond it. You need that as well. But again, my case, and I believe Surge is proving this, is that without an equal measure of humanity and love and care, we will not see sustainable change for our young people. We will see pockets of excellence. We will see things that are not scalable because communities will buck against them. And we will see individual superheroes doing great things. What I ask you is to turn away from the individual superhero approach to the Justice League approach. Any comic book fans? No, okay. But really to have a collective impact for the young people that we serve that is rooted not just in our heads and not just in our hands, but in our hearts. And I end with one of my favorite quotes, which many people in this room have heard from James Baldwin, which is, "For these are all our children. We will all profit by or pay for what they become." And I want to emphasize the our. They are our. They are not their. They are not someone else's children. They are our children. And the sooner we can come to a place of heartening ourselves to our collective power of love to solve some of the issues for them, I think we will see greater urgency and greater impact on their behalf. Thank you.